Hello everyone, Tom 10 here. Today I'm starting new video series which will be not that much of tutorials but project breakdowns which will reveal different techniques and executions which I've done in the past projects. To begin with, this will be about bar chart trace animation done in Adobe After Effects, while this video will cover overall view of the whole project and techniques. Later down the road, I will create a specific topic related in-depth analysis of project, so you could have a better understanding what is involved in the whole process and how it can be achieved. The more access to the data we have, the better visual representation needs arise. So bar chart trace animation gain a phenomenal traction on YouTube with the help of Flourish libraries data visualization. While I'm not familiar with it, out of curiosity, I decided to create something similar looking with Adobe After Effects. After trial and error, BCR solution, which stands for bar chart trace, was developed, which include a wide range of different techniques in a single place. From template creation with expressions, scripting with Extendscript, and automation of the whole process, it became a reality. As you can see in this intro video, it is possible to create the same approach into different responsive resolutions, which is kind of cool thing. Apart the thing that data can be compared in any type of manner, and it will be responsive in all cases. So about everything of these will be further explained in the upcoming video, but for now let's dive into the topic. So with that said, let's jump ahead. What would be the best way to begin this topic? And since bar chart trace animation is about the data visualization, I decided that starting from the data file would make the most sense. So here we have COVID-19 confirmed cases by countries JSON file, where we have time series for the May, starting from the first to the last day of the month. Basically it's an object of array for each country with its confirmed cases. Definitely we could use any data itself, but since I recently created some videos based on this data, I'm using it for this showcase. So it's an array of countries with their own time series. This data will be showcased in order to compare values between confirmed cases among different countries. So yeah, first things first, JSON data file, which is needed ideally based on time series, but not limited to this. Secondly, I strongly believe that whenever we have a script done in Extendscript or our automation, it is strongly suggested to have external video settings file, which would allow you to update values without actually affecting constants in the script file itself. That way you can create versioning easily by just simply changing the values in this video settings file. So here we have plenty of settings of objects, which all affects how the output looks like. But few important ones here is composition settings, meaning that whenever we want to create multiple resolutions of the same build, we just define those resolutions and different outputs will be created. That's important one. And other to mention here is that we could affect the order direction, meaning that we can have ascending or descending values where the highest number would appear at the top or at the bottom. So comparison could be done in both ways, both orders. And let's say number of visible data we want to compare in the screen. So if we change this number to 20, that would mean we would have 20 rows on screen to compare with. But for now, we will leave it as 10 and we'll later explore this in depth. So two common things, video settings file and data file to build After Effects project. And now we will dive into After Effects itself. Idea is very simple. We have template project which will be passed to the script, and accordingly, based on the data inside the data file and video settings file, output will be created. So here we have a pre-made template which will be used for this purpose I just mentioned, and you can see it's pretty simple and pretty empty compared to how output looks like. For the intro, definitely the background, etc., could be changed for whatever, but since it's COVID-19 virus data, I think that this background works pretty well. One thing to showcase you is about the titles and how they update respectively on the title length. So let's just open the composition and inspect headline text. Whatever length the title is, design updates. So that's a good thing, because you want to make sure that whenever you dynamically update the titles, design doesn't fall short and it doesn't extend towards the boundaries of a comp, etc. So this is pretty useful when you want to have dynamic updating project without any manual labor involved. So yeah, this is something to keep in mind, and it's really useful to have it this way. And the reason how this works is because I created a boxer template which allows me to easily update the text and move it to the next line while maintaining the box underneath it and just making everything responsive. So I strongly believe that if you build some tool and don't use it yourself, then it means the tool is not that much handy. But this is not the case for me, and it's kind of one of the mostly used tools in my own library of templates and tools. But usually I just prefer to create custom things and make it unique for my own purposes. So as you can see, this is pretty simple and not that much complex at all. So we have After Effects project, we have data file, we have video settings file, and everything in the end will correspond to the output we want to create. One thing to mention is that once the script is executed, After Effects project is created, which reflects all the inputs which we passed to it. And that file is stored to watch folder. You can see that we have watch folder within this directory, and once we save finished After Effects project in the folder, it automatically being picked up by the media encoder. For now, I've turned off media encoder that it won't pick up any projects once they are here, but I will show you the whole process as well. And the whole After Effects project, you can see that the path is the same as here. So basically we have placeholder After Effects project, we have video data file for a video, and that's it. Afterwards, a build is being created accordingly. So with that said, without further ado, we can actually make this happen by executing the script. I already did that in the past, so I have a shortcut which will be Command Option Shift D, and that way we will be generating After Effects project. In fact, one thing I forgot to do is to remove resolutions and leave it only single resolution for showcase purposes. But all right, so for now we will create 3 different After Effects projects, which will all be different resolution. One thing to mention as well is that every of these resolutions will have 2 color schemes, meaning that you will see that we are starting to have them here. So the idea is that every resolution will have dark and light version. I just did it this way that we could have different color schemes for the output, and it's pretty useful when you want to add one color for the social media or other for YouTube, etc. So every resolution will have a different color scheme, but definitely those colors can be changed and affected externally. You can see that if we have invert status, we are using the same colors in one or the other scenario. So we are almost finished. 2 out of 3 resolutions are processed already, and probably the square one is left now. So yeah, the third one in the object for resolutions was square, and it will be finished soon already. So we can just begin with from, let's say, landscape version dark one, and just see how it looks like. Oh, one thing to mention is that I created this execution in a way that output files are stored in the AAP folder around the design template file, as well as in the watch folder. So that way I have always a way to back up and see how the files look like in case I just immediately deleted them from the watch folder after they are finished. So you can see that here we have landscape version. Everything updates accordingly, and we have lines comparing to each other and moving towards the end of a comparison. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rows available in the screen, and this is how it looks like. As I mentioned, the row which has the lower number moves down, while the one which exceeds the one which was above moves above. And so basically we just change one from each other, and it updates accordingly. So here we had a dark version. We can also inspect how the light version looks like. So basically it's all the same, just different color scheme available. And in fact, I forgot to rename this placeholder well, but it doesn't make any difference in terms of how the output looks like. So this was a single resolution for this one. Now we can inspect maybe the landscape one, so portrait one. So let's see how the dark one of portrait looks like. So as expected, the intro will update to the portrait version, and you can see that the titles doesn't extend from the boundaries, they move to the next line, and it's pretty useful for those narrow width scenarios. And here we can see that everything updated based on the new resolution. And we could do the same thing for the light version. It will be easier to grasp the differences. And as you can see, the title here at the top also updates based on the width of composition. We can also see how the square version looks like. So this could be probably improved in order to move the text a bit up, because the phrase was pretty lengthy here, but you get an idea that responsiveness is still there, and the lines updates accordingly. So we are up to the end of the month, and you can see that everything updated as expected, as well as the title. So this was execution of 10 lines, and we could actually do one other thing, is to close this one, delete those projects for now so they don't be picked up by the media encoder, and instead go to the video settings file. Let's say we will leave only portrait version here, so the build will be faster and we don't have to wait too much for it to complete. Let's say we want 15 values to appear in the composition height, so that way once we key the script, we will have instead of 10, 15 values available to compare, and definitely that number could be reduced or increased based on the data. The good thing is that since here we have only 1 month of data available, so that's pretty fast. The more time entries we have, the slower the processing becomes, but it's not a big deal because everything's still automated and works pretty fast. Yeah, so we will just open it from the watch folder, and this will be portrait version with 15 values. So the intro remains the same, nothing changes here, but once we go here, you can see that a lot more rows are introduced in the comparison, and simply because we're using more of them to showcase here. So that's kind of pretty much it. I could show you one other thing, is that once I start media encoder and we have, let's say I will delete this one, and media encoder will pick up only a single file. As mentioned, the whole execution is automated, meaning that whenever you put the data file in the folder, a media folder, Adobe media folder for watch, it will be automatically picked up based on the settings you define. So you can see that I have this folder added in the media watch folders, and after a while the file will be picked up. So here it was automatically picked up by the Adobe media encoder, but I just noticed that QuickTime doesn't actually prefer to do a screencast and build output at the same time. So I will just stop the rendering so that the process doesn't hurt that much, because it's very laggy in the screencast, but you can see that the output is being generated and everything works as expected once the AAP in the media encoder watch folder is added. So in upcoming month or two, I will be adding breakdown of the topics covered today in more detail, and that way you could actually implement something of these in your own workflows, or maybe even in similar executions as bar chart trace. So it's really interesting to implement such things which are done natively in other tools. Just think about this and implement it into After Effects. I received quite a lot of questions how everything is done, etc. So I would like to mention that it's not that simple to implement as it might look like, and I would love to hear from you if you have a different approaches to execute this. But in my opinion, doing this solely through expressions would be an overkill, because it would hinder your ability to make movement of bars, etc. dynamically, and also overall it will be a bottleneck in terms of a computation, because there are a lot of rows to be compared at the same time at every frame, and doing this in scripting is a lot better way. In fact, I could show you how it's done in this scenario. So we have composition, where we are comparing every of those and just adding keyframes automatically in order to make sure that the comparison works as expected. So you can imagine that manually it would be close to impossible to achieve this, but for expressions, I don't know, if you have some approach in a different way than scripting, feel free to drop a comment, and I would be happy to discuss with you, as well as maybe I would learn something new from you as well. So that said, if you are interested in any After Effects workflow or techniques or learning or whatever, feel free to subscribe to my channel, and I hope that we can share knowledge together and learn for the better. So that's it. Thanks for the time, and I hope to see you around.